stories. And the story I bring you today, it's a folktale from Ecuador that I found in a collection of Latin American folktales written by Joan Pierho's. And it's like a Ecuadorian version of the 1001 Nights of Stories. And it goes like this. In the city of Benjamin, there was a king who loved beautiful women and stories more than everything in the world. He would send his guards to fetch this woman for him. But the woman would not last more than 3 nights, because after 3 nights, they will run out of stories, and the king will lock them down in a dungeon. In the city, people believe that after 3 nights, the king beheaded all them. And it started to have a fear and a sense of helplessness in the city. There was lots of disappearances. Mothers cried their daughters, the loss of their daughters. And there were always people talking about how their cousin or their neighbor or their friend had disappeared. And it just got the fear to a point where it just was a sense of helplessness and hopeless. In the same city, there were 3 sisters. They knew about the king was searching for a wife, and they decided to present themselves. Maybe the king wants to make us his wife. They knew, but it seemed that they didn't feel like they had much to lose. For their life were full of famine, fear, and they were feeling hopeless. The first and second sister went, and they had the same luck that all the others. They were locked in the dungeon. But the third one, the younger sister, she had decided that she would change this pattern of tragedy and loss. She had the idea, she dreamed that she would be able to tell a never-ending story to the king. And in this way, she will win his heart and be forever his queen. Kind of naive to think that you're going to change a tyrant's heart with your stories. But indeed, she presented herself, and she started to tell this never-ending story till very late at night, when she said, "Your Majesty, I'm so tired. Please grant for me to rest. I will tell you the end of the story tomorrow." And night after night, this was going on. She kept telling these stories that were never ending. She chose the exact moment to finish where the plot was really interesting. She tried to weave the stories like a fine brocade. She chose the words so carefully to create a very, very special intimacy. Her voice was creating an environment of soothing, and especially her silences allow the king to imagine, visualize the most marvelous places. The king couldn't believe. He said, "This is my true love. She knows how to tell stories in a way that make me love her so much." And he decided to marry her. And she kept telling these stories. And by telling her stories, she tried to choose stories about love and kindness. She tried to find stories with clear lakes and tumults of water, where the king could see himself and lead him to find his own true self. He told him stories about his own childhood when he was with his love, his mom. And he also told him stories in a song and lullabies. And that way, little by little, night by night, she started to get to know the king. And the king really started to think about how was his way of being. The time passed, and she told him, well, maybe the story is gonna, the end of the story is gonna come soon. But by all this time, she was performing all her duties as a queen. She would clean and make sure every room in the castle was in perfect shape. And one day, she walked down to the dungeon and found the thousands of women locked in there. One woman, each of them were more beautiful than the other. The queen was so curious, she didn't know who to ask. What was happening? Why was the king had locked all these women in there? For she knew, like in the city, everybody talked, and they thought the king had beheaded all these women. But she kept telling the stories and weaving those tales in a way, tried to create that pattern of kindness and love within the stories. And she told him, Your Majesty, I think the end for my story is coming soon. But I'm worried because I know you are such a kind-hearted person that you are unable to harm anyone. I find that the ending of my story might be too upsetting for you. I worry about your heart because I think the ending would be too upsetting. And maybe I shouldn't tell you the ending of the story. But the king was so eager to know the ending of that story. He couldn't resist. He said, no, my queen, please tell me the ending of your story. And then she thought and said, well, I could tell you the ending if you grant me a grace. What grace will that be, my dear queen, he said. That you free all the women that you have locked in the dungeon. I cannot do that, said the king. His face transformed. He was so afraid. He said, I fear that people will drag me out. I could not let the woman leave. Well, said the queen, if it's that so, the story's not going to have any ending. The king couldn't resist. Not to know the end of the story was not possible for him. He said, my dear queen, let me think about this. I need some time to think. And so days passed, and night after night, she kept telling stories, and she waited. But finally, she also started to conceal and talk to the women in the dungeon, and start to connect with them, and start to prepare the city. And one by one, the queen started releasing the women. Each the night they were one that was going back with a story about illness, others were going back saying they were traveling, others were saying they had an accident, and one by one the women were released. Till the night when the queen said, now is the time, I'm going to tell the end. And the story ends like this. And a child was born, and the women of the dungeons were released, and nothing happened to the king. And that's the end of the story. The king was so grateful with that queen that had saved his life. He was so afraid of the people's rage towards him. And he understood how wise and kindness can change somebody's heart. Little by little, he decided to give her, the queen, the power because she was wiser and kinder to govern his people. And that's the story of the king of Benjuin, who lived in the city of Benjuin. I just adapted, it's my version of it. I hope you like it.